I did not like who I showed up as when I was in my 20s as a leader. I was not proud of that version of me that thought I had to be like a jerk, of the boss, like I didn't care for that. And I didn't feel good, and I didn't like it really affected me personally. Like I didn't like who I was showing up as, but I thought that's what you had to do to get the results.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and welcome to How They Scaled It, where scaling is done with both sides of the brain. Today, I'm excited to welcome Claire Bing, the founder of Confiance Cosmetic Group. With over 15 years of experience in the cosmetics industry, Claire has established Confiance as the leading boutique consultancy, offering strategic guidance and expert regulatory advice tailored to the unique challenges of the cosmetic sector. Under her leadership, Confiance has grown from a side hustle to $1 million business, serving over 200 clients, primarily VC and private equity-backed brands, with revenues ranging from $20 million to $250 million. Claire, it is such an honor to have you here today. Welcome to How You Scaled It.
Thank you, Courtney. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. Well, let's jump in with something super straightforward. What inspired you to start Confiance, and what was the personal experience or the gap in the market that you saw that led to the consultancy?
Yeah, so it's a little bit funny how I got here. I always like to start how I even got into the beauty industry, because I feel that some people don't even know it's a pathway or like an industry that you can even enter. I grew up in Ohio. So you have like 3 jobs, like you're a teacher, or you're a lawyer, or you're a doctor. Like it's really like it wasn't like an option. Like it wasn't even an option I knew about. Yeah. And so I went to school to be a doctor. So I have a microbiology degree and a history of art degree. And I graduated in the magical year of 2008 and sort of had to figure out what I had to do with my life. And it wasn't an ideal situation because I didn't want to be a doctor anymore, which was pretty crazy to go through the whole process of school and then take the MCAT and then not be able to become a doctor. Because I was just like, after I took the MCAT, I got a good score and I was just like, I actually don't want to be a doctor. That was horrible. I did not enjoy that experience at all. And then I just knew there was going to be more tests like that and more school. And I just got so tired thinking about it. But I didn't know what to do with my life. And my father was in packaging, food packaging. And so I got a job at a donut factory, which is like
very different.
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to say how this gets. Yeah, it's the opposite. Off shift, perfect to being young, 2 to 10 p.m. No one would imagine doctor, then donut, and then beauty. But actually, all manufacturing is the same. You're making a widget. Mm-hmm. And I got to apply a lot of my science. I was off shift quality specialist. And I got the opportunity to work on a brand new project. And I was really young. And so they gave it to the young shift, the 2 to 10 p.m. people. Mm-hmm. And they're like, there's scale up R&D on this. It's near the final stages. You guys like execute it. It was a large scale manufacturer, made 400,000 donuts an hour. Wow. So it was a lot of donuts. And the project I've been working on was the pumpkin spice donut for Dunkin' Donuts, which was the most successful product launch they had. Yeah. I don't eat donuts, disclosure, anymore. But it was really cool to see everything from like soup to nuts, like the R&D process, the pilot batching, the production, and learning about quality, critical control points, learning about regulatory, because it was the recession and it was very lean. Right. I was able to like interact with so many different parts of the business. I thought it was so cool. Yeah. And there was a job posting for a job in New York. And I was still in Ohio at the time. And I was like, I would love to go to New York to work. Yeah. I'm pretty confident there's no donut factory there. Right. But there is postings for quality. And I was working in quality, and it just said, you need to have, it was to be young, you had to have experience in large scale manufacturing and a science degree, very minimal. I ended up coming out to New York, and I got the job, and it was for a very small company at the time, Tarte Cosmetics. So it was
at
2000.
the time very small.
At the time, it was very small. And I think I was like one of the first 30 employees, something to that effect. Wow. And we they'd never had someone who had like my background before.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a lot of opportunity for quality. And so I instituted a lot of processes. But again, because it was the recession, I was so young and everyone there was young. Like the average age was like my age. So like we were like 25, 28, like we were all young. And we just learned how to do everything because we like loved working. You know, it was just, and this is why I always tell young people when they come to work for me, like just like work, like just do everything that anyone gives you because you don't know where it's going to lead you. And I ended up loving beauty, and it was kind of like an emerging industry, if you will, in that I was there was no regulatory at the time. It's like there's nothing. Like there's rules. There's like written in 1938, and there was the FTC, and like there was like some understanding, but the EU had just released their new regulations, and Maureen Kelly, the CEO, sort of like gave me the opportunity to like learn and be like, hey, can you own this? I mean, great job on her part. Like I was so cheap compared to like hiring like lawyers and everything. But she's like, just learn. And so I learned, and I loved regulatory related cosmetics. And so I was in Europe a lot learning from this new regulation. I had kind of a leg up on certain regulatory experts in that we'd all been around the legislation at the same amount of time. And the only part that was different was I was actually doing the work as well as learning the regulation. So a lot of people who were like 50-year-old men, they had the same amount of time under the same legislation, but they weren't doing the work. They were delegating. So I was seeing it in practice, which is super cool. And through just doing it and like meeting people and always like talking to everyone, I became a regulatory expert. And from there, I, after almost a decade being at Tarte, I left and I went and joined a beauty brand incubator. And I was leading the team in the United States and in Europe for regulatory. And what I quickly discovered was that I couldn't do everything on my own, so I had to delegate. And we had to find consultants also because I couldn't hire the headcount. And people were charging me so much money to like do this work. And I was like, I know how long it takes. It doesn't take that long. But like I'm paying them. And I was paying so many people for all of this work. And what ended up happening was I was like, you know what? There's so many businesses that exist that they're paying all of this work to. What I should end up doing is going out and doing this on my own. So I started my own consulting group where I was the main consultant. And then I started hiring people to work with me because I was getting so many people. And then from that, I became, my company, Confiance Cosmetic Group. So just like sort of like I found a gap and I took it.
No, I think that your journey has been so interesting because you've kind of like started on this path to being a doctor. But in that path, like even though that didn't work out, like that science degree is what got you to where you are now. Like if you didn't have that degree, it'd be a lot harder to be where you are just because it was so attractive for that very specific role. But I also love that you started with a donut factory where regulation, like food regulation must be the most, like the toughest regulations to like understand. So it's almost like you kind of like trial by fire. You went into the hardest regulation and like saw how everything worked, and then went straight into like, what was that transition from food to cosmetics? How did that feel?
Well, it was weird because food is an ingestible. And then cosmetics is not. So like the risk profile is completely different. And, people talk about like bioaccumulation a lot because they're like, I think a lot of people hear about an ingredient and they're like, oh, that's going to cause cancer. It's really difficult to penetrate the skin. I think we all learned that in COVID because, the skin has to be broken for COVID to get through or has to go into a mucosa membrane. But food, it's already going in. There's nothing standing in the way. So I think having something where you control for a different risk, like I came from something where I'm like, oh, it may be a looser risk. Like the risk profile may be different, but interpreting that in terms of like, how do we control for quality was really easy to do because you're going down risk. So I was able to easily adapt, but it's all in the same regulation. In 1938, the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Food, drug, and cosmetics are all regulated in the same act. So
interesting.
Yeah, so it's not really like too different. It's just the risk is higher for food and obviously higher for drugs, but topicals, cosmetics, it's a different classification in terms of the risk profile, but it's all in the same, like understanding can't be adulterated and can't be misbranded. So you can apply the same principles, just as a different risk profile.
Yeah, interesting. And you're saying like 1938 is when this like
oh yeah.
So I'm sure things have changed a lot, but even since you started with Tarte back in like 2010,
12.
2010, 12.
I always forget. I think 12.
Yeah.
Somewhere there. Obama was president.
Okay, that's a good marker to figure out.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, Obama was president. Okay.
Yeah.
So since then, has there been more regulations come up? Like how have the regulations changed over the recent years?
Yeah, it's really interesting because cosmetics, the way it's regulated, well, let's kind of go back. So I'm also a law school professor. So my favorite activity that I love to do is take more jobs. Yeah. So I also teach a law school class at Fordham Law School in the Fashion Institute for Cosmetic Regulations. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting the way laws are written in the United States, especially in food and cosmetics, is because they allow for innovation. So they're very broad. So a lot of people think there's no laws, when in fact there are. So you can't be adulterated and can't be misbranded, but what does that actually mean? Right. Through science and innovation, you understand what adulteration means in different ways. So like they never used to have the ability to detect, parts per million of heavy metals, but now we do. So it's really been an evolution of science and way that we interpret an existing law. So, and also understanding like people didn't know asbestos were unsafe. And now we know asbestos are known carcinogens. So the interpretations of the existing regulations have always remained constant. You can't have adulterated cosmetics. You can't have misbranded cosmetics, but the science has evolved to create a new way of looking at that. Mm-hmm. So, in that it's really like keeping up with the science as well as keeping up with each of the individual states in the United States, the way that they interpret regulations. So there's California, where they have California Proposition 65. They have the California Air Resource Board, where it's called CARB. And the California Air Resource Board was initially for like gas exhaust. But then if you think about the overlapping industries, cosmetics have aerosols. So that's going in the air. So that's also being impacted. So then the EPA comes into effect. So there's so many different ways cosmetics are regulated. It's really fun and interesting. And like
I'm
the
glad
way
you think that.
I love it. I am a total nerd. I love it. I think it's so fascinating. Yeah. And like, for example, people are like, oh my God, formaldehyde is so bad. It's like, yes, it is. But there's so many other things that are like, if it's there, it's not bad. It's the dosage.
Right. So like how you're consuming it, Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's when topicals, again, you're not consuming it. So it's like, is that bad? Is there a bioaccumulative effect? I think that's where innovation and research is really starting to look, is like, if I use a cream every single day for my entire life, what happens? Right. But just presence alone doesn't necessitate harm. Mm-hmm. So for example, like everyone's like, I only want natural ingredients. So it's like, fantastic. That's a great idea. Arsenic is natural. Right. And I don't think you want arsenic. Right. So, so it's also like, there's been an interpretation and kind of like a, armchair Google aspect. Yeah. That's a little difficult.
Like the phrase clean beauty, like what does that even mean? That's everything. It's nothing. It's like, and there's so many like buzzwords within beauty. Like when we're marketing beauty products, it's always like, okay, do we want to use the buzzwords? Do we not? What do they mean exactly? And I'm sure on your end, you're like, okay, is there any kind of legal ramification for using these terms? Like what does anything mean?
Yeah. And that's sort of like, for my company, like our sweet spot is kind of interpreting all of these ambiguous words and putting together how consumers regulate, because consumer perception is a regulation tool, how retailers themselves regulate through their own programs, as well as existing regulations and ongoing classes, which evolve with consumer sentiment. And then there's existing regulations that have new and innovative ways of being interpreted. So my company and like what I really love doing is because I'm like such a sponge for knowledge, is like reading all of this and then advising people on like the appropriate way. So clean beauty, like people always like, I only want to have clean products. So I was like, define clean.
Right.
Like define what clean means to you. So arsenic, for example, like if some people will say, I only want it to be natural. I'm like, okay, arsenic's natural. So that's out. Then what? And it's really like, I don't think it's important to know what's not in your product. I would rather know what is.
Right.
And so if something is there, like how are you ensuring the quality? Like kind of going back to like my quality background, ethoxylated ingredients like PEGs aren't bad.
Right.
What could be bad is if they're poor quality manufacture and they have 1,4-dioxane, which is a known carcinogen. So I think we've demonized good ingredients like ethoxylated ingredients, when in fact the demon is what is the unpure process, the ability to make it that doesn't include 1,4-dioxane. Talc isn't bad. It's bad because it's mined with asbestos. It's found, asbestos and talc are found together, and they actually have to go through a vacuum stripping process, and it's literally how it sounds. It's a vacuum. Asbestos is lighter than talc, and it gets pulled out, and then they do a purity, and if it's 99.99%, which is all they can detect right now with the current science, then it's free of asbestos and it's safe. But when it contains more asbestos, then talc is unsafe. Right. So it's not like if a product contains an ingredient, I don't care if it's not there. I care how it is there and the quality around it. So what I advise my clients is when you make a clean definition, don't just define what you're not using, define what you are using and how you ensure it's good quality and it's safe for consumers.
So it's not about it's partially about the ingredients, but it's also about the process. So it's kind of just like one more level of nuance that I don't think anybody thinks about. I think they literally just look at ingredients when they're putting whatever on their skin or eating anything. But the process, it seems like that's what defines how safe something really is.
Everyone's like, I hate parabens. And I was like, cool. The number one like location of parabens is blueberries. Like, are you going to hate blueberries? And there's good parabens and there's bad parabens. And the EU, which has a positive list and a negative list, and that's a cultural difference.
Right.
I could talk about that all day, but the EU says like, here's some parabens you can use and here's some that aren't because these ones are safe. But we in the United States don't have positive and negative lists because I think we all can see from a government inefficiency process, it's difficult to have legislation agree. Right. So we have regulatory agents like the FDA interpret with science. So actually the EU takes into consideration all of the FDA and CIR data. Okay. When they're creating regulations. Just culturally, they do positive lists and negative lists and are more prescriptive. Here, we are more, I wouldn't say reactive, but we're more interpreting in a broader sense, like how the regulations are in play. And that's why experts are so important. Right. And then, I think one of the other things that really, really grinds my gears is when you see those YouTube videos where it's a man and it's always a man. Yeah. No offense, men, but it is always a man, and they're inside of a store, and they're like, I can't even read these ingredients. Right. They're not safe. It's like your education does not equivocate
like what's safe. Yeah,
what's safe or not. Like your lack of knowledge of science doesn't mean it's unsafe. Right. So there's a lot of like, it's a really interesting world to navigate in because then you have like the super science people, and then you have like the marketing people who are just from a perception background. You have to like bridge the gap and create rules to create safety
and educate,
exactly. Yeah. And I love doing that. That's, it's sort of like if you find your passion, you don't work a day in your life.
Right,
I still work a day in my life,
yeah,
but
it's like,
I'm
it sounds like you
passionate
work
about
multiple
it.
days in one day.
Yeah.
Too many
I
jobs.
have many days. I have many days in the day. But I mean, it's really fun. And like, I love employing people who also are as passionate as I am. I like finding a place for like the people where most people say like regulatory is like they have to have it. Like I want people who like love it, and we can fulfill that gap for you, so you don't have to like find those people.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, so as you started your business and you kind of went from Tarte into the incubator, and then you realized, okay, I'm going to make a consultancy. Were there any challenges at the beginning, or were you just off to the races, like pulling in clients immediately?
So, I mean, I'm giving myself a lot of like benefit in that I'm like, I could just do this on myself. I really, when I quit my job, when I was working at that beauty brand incubator, I had the full intent and idea, like I'll be a consultant one day.
Yeah.
I was just going to have a year of like me. I told my partner, I'm going to clean the house. It's going to be spotless. I'm going to make dinner every night. I'm going to read. I'm going to go to yoga. 2 days in, I was at a yoga class, and they were like the middle of the day yoga people, which I had never met before. And I was like, you guys want to get coffee? And we were drinking coffee, and I had nothing to talk about. It's like, I'm a New Yorker. Like, I'm not working. What am I talking about? And like, I had like a real crisis of character. And I went home, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a consultant today and see what happens. So I made a LinkedIn post about it. And what ended up happening was it kind of went a little viral about like starting my own business and like why I'm starting my own business. And that day I signed 5 clients who saw it.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Just like 5 random people. I mean, I'm connected in the industry, so it was like 5 people. And then my partner came home and was like, so I accidentally started a business. We're doing really well. We'll see how this goes. And also I'm from Ohio, so my dad's like, that's not a real business, go get a real job. But I was like, I think like I'll just do this for like a couple months. And I loved it, and I realized how much the industry was lacking like expertise in terms of regulatory. Like everyone had been sort of like working on this basis of trusting their manufacturers or trusting like marketing, trusting so many disparate sources, but there was no central location like grounded in the regulations, but also science. And so what I ended up doing was serving as a resource to so many companies just by word of mouth. They're like, hey, I know you're working with so-and-so. Can you help me work together? And then I started working with like, the private equity companies who have like big portfolios. And they're like, we've gone through due diligence processes before. And I feel like regulatory is the worst every time. Can you go clean up some of these brands? And I ended up hiring people who I used to work with who were sort of like at jobs where regulatory was like an underserved asset. They weren't being treated well. A lot of them are like mothers also. So the work-life balance is really challenging. And they're responsible people. They'll get their job done, but like maybe the traditional hours of work wasn't working for them. So I had to assign some of them, like, I know you're nursing the middle of the night. You're in charge of all of Korea. Just like work on Korea, and you could sleep during the day or like do whatever you can. And so the company really evolved in that there was like a need, and then we just kept getting better by word of mouth, and working more and more with all of these different people that we were like, you know what, we're actually a resource for the entire industry. I don't think that we're like brand specific. We're really agnostic in terms of like if it's men's care, women's, if it's fragrance. The rules and principles are all the same. It's not proprietary. And I think it's a disservice to the industry to have this information not being shared, because it also feels sort of like it's gate kept. And like, it's not easily accessible. And like, everyone's like, well, it's an industry practice, but like, is it? And so we wanted to serve a function for the industry so that consumers ultimately win. They get safe products, they're truthful in the advertising, they're run in a repeatable fashion, and we're giving people like the resources to do it. And then we get to live our lives as like happy, carefree women who are just like, you know what? I love doing what I'm doing, and I love getting better at it.
Well, so because you were like, I'm not going to work for a year, and then immediately you're like, I have to work.
Yeah.
Do you think that you just needed to be your own boss? Like, do you feel like you just needed to have like, because I imagine you were getting burned out at your role, which is why you were like, I need to take a year off and just like be a human again. So like, did you kind of like learn anything about yourself through that process? Because that feels like a pretty major, very quick change that you made.
Looking back, it was insane to make that change.
Yeah.
To go. I was very fortunate in that I had a long tenure within an industry working for brands where I was paid very well. And I had the privilege of taking a year off to like kind of discover it.
Yeah.
I found out quickly that I'm a person who enjoys working.
Yeah.
I figured that out very, very quickly.
Your Midwestern values.
Yeah. Just like my dad said, we're put on this earth to work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anyone else any other part of the country where someone's parents tell them that. But, I just like, I like working. Like, I find pleasure in it. I learned that I'm probably never going to retire. Retirement may look different for me than others. But
maybe just bring it down to one job instead of 3.
Yeah, just one job instead of 3. Like maybe like not every single manufacturer in the entire world, but maybe like 2. I don't know.
Right.
I enjoy it. Like it's fun. I learned, in that 2-day period that I also I wasn't setting up my work life in a way that like was healthy. About what was important, but like going the complete opposite way was also not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a balance, and I would love to meet the person who has it figured out. I haven't found the balance yet, but I did realize that there's priorities in my life that I need to put in place, and I can't be like 100% work or 100% play. Like I need to find a middle ground. And to be fair, play for me is literally going to bed.
It's like going to the midday yoga class.
Yeah, it's like going to yoga, like going to the gym. Like that's not real. But I did learn, like, I think I always was my own boss. I think some people always are their own boss, no matter if you have a boss. I always had bosses who were like, here's the work you need to do, and I do it. Yeah. But then like I would also create my own work.
Right.
And I would like go, poke around in other areas, and like I love helping people.
Yeah.
And it never felt like I was being intrusive on someone. Mm-hmm. Like people would come to me and ask me for help, and I would help them. And it wasn't like, I would never say like, that's not my job. I just want to learn more. And so I never really had, like, I think my bosses always were like, I always got like exceeding expectations in all my reviews. Again, I'm a woman who's a perfectionist. So like, like I would get exceeding expectations in every area, and then one they'd say I was 3, and then I'd be like hyper focused on that 3.
That's
I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But like, I love learning, and I think curiosity is like the best boss to have. You know, I just like take that into all areas of my life.
Yeah, I love that. Curiosity is the best boss. I do think that we've grown less curious as like a people, because I think it's because it's so easy to find an answer, not the answer, but an answer. It's so easy to like quickly Google something or put it into ChatGPT and then like, okay, that's what it is, without being a little bit more curious to ask the second question. So I really like that that concept.
One of our favorite things to do, my partner and I, when we don't take our phones, like on Saturdays, we go to the dog park, and then we go to the farmer's market that's at the dog park, and then we come home. We don't take our phones. And we'll be like talking and like remember a movie, and we'll like be trying to figure out who the person is. I'm like, oh, what actor was it? And like if we had our phones, we could Google it. But our favorite thing to do is then like we'll like ask someone, be like, who's the actor? Blah blah. And we're like, no phones allowed.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh, I don't know. And like it ends up being like, it's kind of like fun,
like a fun
like
game. Yeah.
Yeah. But like honestly, like it's so easy to find an answer.
Yeah.
But like the pathway is like more interesting. Like I've made friends that way. Like it's sort of like when you're in regulatory, also there's never one answer. There's many answers, but what's the best answer? And you have to like collaborate with people and have like tons of experts in the room. I call people all the time. There's some projects where I haven't even built them because I'm like, I want to know this answer now. It's personal. And like the amount of hours are ridiculous to be billed for this one answer.
Right. But I need to know.
But I need to know. And like, it's probably not a best business model.
Seems to be working for you.
Yeah. But I enjoy finding an answer that's the best, not the answer, and knowing that it always changes and being flexible in that mindset.
Yeah, that's a really good way of kind of just realizing the world is very gray. So
the world's so gray. I wish it was black and white. And like I wish it was binary yes, no. But it's like, I mean, my partner's in tech and that is yes, no. And then I'm like, well, what about? And I'm like, I can argue with myself from 900 different ways. And that's interesting.
Yeah. So you have a team of 5, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
But you have like a ton of clients. I think you have over 200 clients. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it might be more now. I mean, active clients is definitely over 200.
Yeah. So how can you ensure kind of that quality personalized service with such a small team? Is it just by systems, or how are you accomplishing that?
So depending on who you ask, and it depends on the day. Some days I'm doing really well, some days I'm not doing really well. But it's really like organization and time blocking. So we have like priority clients, and those are going to be our retainer clients. They're always at the top of the queue. They're always the top priority. There's project-based clients that like have set timelines. And then there's like ongoing business where like maybe it is just like they'll ask you questions here or there. Yeah. Those are the ones I don't think I service as well as I'd like to. But really it's about technology, honestly, and software investment. We use, I think one of the greatest tools out there is Notion, because you can make it whatever you want. I am obsessed with Notion. Like you can do anything in Notion, like really like having like a Kanban board and like just like moving projects around and like working with the team of like identifying what's next. And like then putting all of unfortunately everyone asks the same question.
No,
so
I know.
we have the best answers that we've created, and then we revisit those often. So like a lot of questions that like a lot of like other companies, it would take them like an hour to answer.
Right.
We've probably been asked it before. So we can service them by a database of questions and answers. We have a huge FAQ with like thousands of questions. Another thing is we have like strategic partners where we work with technology companies to develop software. So one of those is Ethos. They're a huge PLM company that does product lifecycle management, and we use them strictly for the regulatory software. And like quickly became a super user because of the amount of data that we have, and we needed controls related to proprietary. So they really work closely with us, like on expediting regulatory reviews and like having a central database of all of our documentation, but while maintaining strict confidentiality with all of our clients. And then another one is a Good Face Project, which is an amazing company that has like billions of people that work there. It feels like, I'm sure they'll say they don't. It feels like they have billions of people and coders and everything. They develop like really quick and fast and dirty ways to do things, like in terms of regulatory review. And we meet with them regularly saying like, hey, here's what we're getting from a lot of our clients. Is there a way you could build this for us? And they use these as like use cases to like sell their product. And so we get, reduced rates to work with them because we're like also like working with them to develop solutions for us to work better. Right. So one is like partnerships, the ability to service our clients is like from technology partners. And then 2 is just like internal like control of like making sure that we have the resources that our team needs, so that we can quickly service everyone.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised that that tech is like such a big part of what you do, because it doesn't your work does not feel like tech focused at all. But I am a big believer in systems. Whenever people are like, we're at capacity, I was like, are you at capacity or do you not have very good systems? Like,
yes, we invest.
Yes, like you have this huge knowledge base. I love that you can reference all the time, but then figuring out how you can use tech to make your stuff faster and more efficient and like build things for your clients. That's brilliant.
We use like we're integrating a lot more AI, like Claude, for example, where we set up individual projects. So like we build up the database in Claude for our projects of like, here's all of our knowledge for Europe, and then we'll query it. We don't rely on it to be like asking like a ChatGPT methodology of like asking the internet, which is just like, it's only as smart as the person asking the question. We provide our information into Claude as a project, and then we query Claude relates to the information we already have. So we're talking to ourselves, we're not talking to the internet, and it's just like a faster way, because someone can ask a question in so many different ways. Like maybe we've already answered it. So like if we've already answered it, like what could Claude tell us about the data that we've already done? Technology is like super important, really, because also, so I don't know how, I'm going to assume baseline knowledge, but like when you get data about a formula, you're getting like all of the raw material information. And what that looks like is an antiquated way of providing you PDFs that are flat documents that you can't just like look into. And there's all these attributes. So the attributes will be like, you know, the source of the raw material, for example. Like, is it halal? Is it kosher? It'll have all these attributes. And what our team does is we load them into softwares like Ethos, all of these attributes, and then we query the attributes. So it's a lot of manual work, but it gets faster and faster and faster the more you have. And so we can query these attributes. So having tech is like preventing us from going and doing the manual work repeatedly
over and over and over again.
If we invest in the time to put it into a query model, we can have the ability to like perform faster.
It's amazing. So your clients are mostly coming from venture capital, private equity. How have you been able to build those relationships? I know you're pretty well connected just from your previous work, but are there other things that you do to kind of maintain those relationships?
Yeah, so a lot of dinners. Like, I love going out to a dinner. If anyone's asking, I like French food. But really, like, it's sort of like when we work, you know, the majority of about 80% of our clients are brands. The rest are divided up between retailers and manufacturers. And when we work with so many different partners, eventually someone gets acquired by someone. And it's about the relationship. It's about also, I send a lot of my team, and I did it myself, to personal transformational workshops. It's about who you are in that relationship and like who you show up to be. And like who you are is who someone wants to work with. If you're difficult, which is frustrating, documentation, questions is frustrating. Prior to this, I was on a call where someone was so mad about something that I'm like, that's an old story. Like, let's address the issue at hand. The issue at hand is we need to address these specific questions.
Right.
It's really like showing up on like who you want to be and who you want to work with, and like continuing to show up that way. And when you show up that way, people want to keep giving you business because it's such a kinder and gentler way than other ways people work. And so like, I know it sounds like easy, like don't be difficult, but like it's really hard.
It's not. It's especially when you're doing the same thing over and over again, answering the same questions over and over again. And it is like, a lot of people find this stuff boring, so they don't want to do it. So like the client participation is, I'm sure, a struggle, because they're like, we just want to make cute makeup. And like, you're like, but we have to do all this other stuff. So like, I get how that could be challenging.
And it's like really fun to see it at the end product. One of our big clients that we love working with is Papa Tui, which was founded by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And The Rock is so much fun to like work with. So like all the stuff that we take for granted, we're like, oh, this is an incredibly efficacious formula. He's like, I love that word. And he like uses all this advertising. He's like, this is efficacious. And I'm like, it's really fun to see that. But like, you kind of, every time you go into a project, you can't take for granted that you've heard the question before. It's new to that person.
Brand new question. Yeah. They've never asked
It's a brand new
before.
question. And so like granting grace is like creating something that is new for them. Like you can't be like, I mean, one of the main mottos of my company is don't be a dick. Like,
Yeah.
just don't. Like, be like super nice. And if it's frustrating, be like, I'm really frustrated today. Can we do this tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like, if someone hears that, then they're like, no, then like we can evaluate that relationship. But like, if
Right.
they say like, yeah, which most people do,
Yeah.
then be a person of your word and manage it tomorrow. So it's really like showing up as
Yeah.
like the best version of yourself every day, which is really challenging and difficult. But like, again, it's if you love the work, you also can enroll someone in loving the work too. It's not
Yeah.
difficult because they see the end results. They see the rock saying efficacious. They go, oh wait,
Right.
this resonates. Consumers like this. Hey Claire, what are some more fun science words you can
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
And I'll be like trans epidermal water loss.
Right.
But you know, it does work. It does work that way.
Yeah. So does that kind of describe your leadership style as well? Just like, okay, let's just like all show up for each other. It sounds like you send people to like um,
To an
workshops
expert.
and it also
Yeah.
seems like you like hiring women and giving them, you know, the space to be mothers. Like that's kind of, I mean, it's not like super radical, but it's a different way of
Okay.
thinking about hiring. But how would you describe your leadership and how it's changed over the years?
I did not like who I showed up as when I was in my 20s as a leader.
Yeah.
I was not proud of that version of me that thought
Mhm.
I had to be like a jerk.
Yeah.
Of the boss, you know, like
Yeah.
I didn't care for that. And I didn't feel good and I didn't like it really affected me personally. Like
Hmm.
I didn't like who I was showing up as, but I thought that's what you had to do to get the results.
Yeah.
Um I then I then started doing that transformational leadership work on myself and learned new ways of showing up. And as a leader, I want to not only treat people how I want to be treated, some days you just have to get the job done and it's like a hard conversation. But when I have those hard conversations, I say, I'm going to have a difficult conversation. Is it all right if we have that? Are you in a good space for that? And
Yeah.
like asking their permission. I know it sounds like totally like lame,
Yeah.
and
But
like
if it
but
works.
but like also it's just more information. Like if they don't want to join a difficult conversation and they repeatedly don't join a difficult conversation, that's information for me
Yeah.
that maybe that's not the best fit. I never fire people and I
Yeah.
haven't fired people in like a decade. They know how where they stand with me and usually they go, I'm finding a new job, and I say,
Yeah.
let me help you find that job that's the best fit for you, because I
Yeah.
don't like letting go of people because it's like their livelihood. And like also we work in a country that doesn't offer health care. And
Yeah.
so like if the way that you maintain your health is through your employer, then it's very rude to be taking away someone's health from them. And
Right.
until
Right.
like we do operate in a world in which healthcare is like given to the citizens, I have to like respect everyone's
Yeah.
decision. And then if they're not the best fit, find alternatives for them elsewhere and not take away their health. But I'll
Yeah.
do, and I never give up on people. And like all of my employees that I've ever had, I probably only have one person who probably does not like me and like, listen, I was not the best version of me either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like, it's not about being liked; it's about like liking yourself, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's such a refreshing take on the hiring process. I think um, a lot of people are like, it's just business, it's not personal, but
Right?
it absolutely is. Especially
Yeah,
like
it's like
when you like have built this team and like you like I don't know. I have a really hard time letting people go and making those decisions for exactly that reason where it's like this is like your life. I know your family and
right.
I think that the way you approach it is that's really it's kind of interesting because it's definitely a different way of thinking about it than I would say like most CEOs do. Yeah.
Yeah, and feedback is feedback, and I always like that's why I send them there because I need an expert to handle that because I'm not good
Yeah.
at that. But
Yeah.
like feedback is feedback, and like it's not about you personally, and like I really express that like depersonalization of feedback is incredibly important because
Hmm.
feedback is just an experience that you've created for someone else.
Right.
And you can't discount their experience, but maybe it's not the experience you meant to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a disconnect. And wherever someone's experience is like really far from what you meant to have, that's where resentment grows. So
Mm-hmm.
offering feedback and bridging that gap is going to like reduce the ability to have resentment. And that's why difficult conversations are so important, to bridge that gap like in one jump.
Right.
But really it's like continually talking back to each other, but also understanding that it's not about you, it's about the work. And I think a lot of people think they're giving feedback when they're making it personal. They're like, you didn't do this.
Right.
Rather than like when I didn't receive that on time, I was really concerned about the client, and the client's not really happy.
Yeah.
How can we like fix this to be better next time?
Right.
And when it's a we conversation, it's not about like, you didn't do something, how dare you, now I have to go, and like it's so ego driven.
Right.
It's not really useful. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of it is like, I went on my honeymoon in Tahiti, and it's a privilege that I was so grateful to have, but I was like on this small island called Taha, and in the island, all the women who were at the grocery store had their children at work with them while they were in line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And everyone there speaks English, and I speak passable French. And I was speaking to them about this, and they're like, yeah, it's just very typical. Like, you bring your children to work, and like, you know, it's like a community. And like, I was so inspired by their way of working that like, I want to create that for myself.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And also, you mentioned how when you were in your 20s, you had a different look at leadership, and you're like, I didn't want to be a jerk. And I feel like this is something that happens a lot, and I don't want to over gender things, but I feel like a lot of times when we look at like who's the most powerful, most successful business people, and they're these men who are at times cruel, or they're all about the bottom line, and they're aggressive, and they're angry a lot, and they're always moving. And I think that's how we see success, and so then we try to emulate it. And I've always been of the mindset of like, I don't want to act like a man in order to get ahead. I want everyone to act more like women, because like we're better at communicating and doing all of these like soft skills, which I think are much more beneficial to leadership. And so it's hard to like move through that, but I think everyone goes through that process of being like, oh no, I'm tough and I've got to be a jerk in order to get ahead. And then you realize like, but if you treat everyone like a person, and you play to their strengths, and you support them, and you genuinely have, love and support for them, then everyone performs a lot better, and no one's stressed out, and you just get better results overall. So I think we've all been there.
I mean, it's so true. Like, I think we all show up like who we think we have to be when we're young. And then there's definitely a time where like you can do two paths. You can keep doing it, or you could choose something else. And I was really grateful that I chose something else. Like, I chose a different way to show up. I think the only reason I'm successful is because I chose to show up as a different way as a leader. And like, also when I say successful, I have like a different mindset related to success. I think a lot of us, like you were saying, we look at these like people who are successful, and it's like, companies is not the only metric of success.
Right.
Like, if I have I do, there's like an activity that I do annually. It's called like a life wheel, and it like looks at all the different parts of my life, and I may be killing it at work, but maybe my finances aren't where they want to be. My body isn't where I want it to be. Like, there's so many other parts of my life. Like, am I successful at work? Yes. But is my life successful? Is that the legacy I want to leave behind? Right. Like, do I want to be someone's story that they had this shitty boss? Like, that's a legacy. No one remembers like all the other things if you're shitty to them. And then, that's not the legacy I want to lead. And so the metrics of my success is like different than like, I think what society is. And certainly with what like men have, like, and also like as someone who's worked on like a lot of men's products and with a lot of men in those product spaces, my favorite thing is like men think that they're like talking about business, but they're like straight up gossiping. It's my favorite thing about men. They're like, I'm talking about work. And I'm like, girl, you're gossiping.
And I'm here for it.
And I love it, but like just call it what it is. But like men have the same faults that women have. It's just like we call it gossip when it's a woman, but men it's talking business. But like they're just like a bunch of little girls like kikiing on the playground. And so you have to like keep it like with every successful person that you see is like, I don't judge the metrics of success by like the money they have in the bank, but like the life that they're leaving and the legacy they leave behind. Because I know a lot of very successful men that they're like little gossip queens.
Yeah.
The only difference is they're a man, and if a woman did that, then they would be a bitch.
Right.
So like there is a lot of gender that relates to it, but I think like judging how you personally define for yourself success and kind of ignoring what society does, it's really a lot nicer way to live.
I agree. You got to let go of a lot of the like the preconceived what it's supposed to be and make it what it actually needs to be. So when you're looking ahead for the next like couple of years, sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on. You're doing some development. Like where do you see Confiance being in the next 5 years?
So really it's growing my team and giving them the tools and the resources that they need and providing opportunities for them to grow. I want my team to certainly have more resources. We have a lot of clients where we started working with them really small, and now they're really big. And it's like also like transitioning those clients to what they need internally and being partners with them. So, you know, some of our clients we started working with them when they were like, you know, like a piece of paper. And now they're like 50 million. Some of them are selling like millions of dollars in just 5 minutes. And it's really nice to see, but like our job is to serve as like advisory. So like transitioning those people to hiring for them what they need internally and serving as an advisor. And then also for our company kind of like becoming that bedrock in the United States for regulations. Like I would love for every company to be like, that's a company that I trust and I can go to. We don't charge lawyer prices, but like if we're struggling with like our business, like we know that's where we need to go. And I don't think a company yet exists like that in the United States. And I would like to become that company here where we have a full service regulatory and quality that we can offer someone to build their beauty brand and their vision at any size, not just like the big companies.
Yeah, it's a great vision. I think you're well on your way. Because it does seem like you kind of offer something that they really can't get anywhere else. So it's a good start. I also I love that one of your goals is to be like, I want to make it so our clients don't need us anymore. So like,
I love when they don't need me.
We always talk about this because we work with a lot of like startups and people who are getting funding and stuff, and they're plateauing, and then we take them and we scale them and we give them growth. And one of the best things that can happen is for a client to like graduate from us because they've gotten acquired. And so the acquiring company already has a marketing team, or they do so well that they're able to hire an internal marketing team. And while it's so sad to see them leave, it's like, but like you were here and now you're here. And like, it's always just really nice when we always call them graduating to the next level.
I tell everyone I love working myself out of a job. When you do well, we've done well. And usually what ends up happening is like in the due diligence process of an acquisition, that cleanup work is not really there. And like nothing makes me more excited than a law firm giving me like 3 actions, when some law firms, like if I'm going in, will give me like 300 actions to clean up. Like the ability for companies to sell faster and have that due diligence process go faster. Pre-acquisition cleanup is a huge cost. If we can do that from the onset and you don't have to worry about that, like you're saving millions of dollars. And potentially post-sale acquisition, we're moving millions from escrow to clean up prior to like
Right.
sale final. So like we love working with companies to make sure that they understand like your job is to be acquired.
Yeah.
Our job is to make it faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Well, so think about something I always ask everyone. When you think about you back when you were first starting
Yeah.
Confiance, would you give yourself any advice knowing what you know now?
Don't take every customer.
Oh, okay. All
You
right,
don't
that's a
need
good
it
one.
that bad. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like are so fear driven
Yep.
that like they have to work with everyone or
Mm-hmm.
else there'll be no one. Like you don't really have to.
Yeah.
Like being picky and choosy isn't like a negative. It's about like I tell people like when I'm not doing a good job, like I'm not doing a good job. I recommend someone else who can better service you. And some people get really mad at me. Like
Yeah.
they're like they're
But you
like,
should
how
do a good
dare
job.
you? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but I'm not like I turned in everything you need, but I don't think the work is like ideal. And I'd
Yeah.
recommend working with someone else. Like I would definitely have told myself like if you have a gut feeling it's not going to go well, probably won't.
Yeah. Yeah, man, trust your gut. It takes so long to learn to trust your gut, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, every bad decision I've ever made, I'm like, well, I did have a gut feeling about that at the
Yeah.
beginning. I should have just listened to it.
I know. Like if I also like I don't choose brands that I don't believe in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
I like
took a
that.
lot of people that I didn't believe in their brand. It's like, well, why did I choose to work with
Right,
them?
right, right.
And just
And I
fear of
mean,
not having enough. That's really
right.
it is.
Yeah. And I think that once you start really believing in yourself and really believing what you're doing is good and seeing that proof, then it's a lot easier to say no to the clearly like bad choices. But whether or not you said yes or no to those people at the beginning, you'd probably still be where you are today. So you might as well
Yeah,
say no.
exactly. You always end up where you need to be, and
Yep.
like where you need to be is where you are. So like
Yeah.
I'm completely fine with like learning those things because I'm not someone who can be told that. Like
Yeah.
I have to kind of learn it on my own.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like unfortunately I think failure is the best educational tool. And so
It,
finding that
yeah.
failure, like make sure it's safe, but like,
Yes.
it can be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a really fun, interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and Confiance online?
We are at www.confiancecosmetic.com. CONFIANCE. It means confidence in French.
Oh, I love it. And we'll link to that all over the place. So hopefully they'll be able to just click. And thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, share with a friend, leave us a review. If there's anything you'd like to see on or hear on an upcoming episode, just let us know. And for more insights, follow us on LinkedIn or visit rightleftagency.com. And we'll be back next time with more stories of success, innovation, and marketing strategies to help you grow. See you on the next one.